Hope you're having a good day. This is my Ficus Concinna. Got some of the most beautiful leaves right when they first start coming out. Nice and red. And then that's one of my favorite parts of it. And then one of my least favorite parts of it is when they're older leaves. They get huge like this. Eventually they even get bigger than that, kind of get a little leathery. This is all this. These two here, this shoot, and these other big leaves that you see are the only thing it's really had on it all winter. This got defoliated completely during the hurricane, and it's just kind of sat and done nothing the rest of the winter. I was hoping I wouldn't have to chop it down to those leaves. I'm glad it all came back, but I do have big plans for it anyhow. One of the last times I ever took any pictures and made a video of it, it was suggested to me that I could chop it here and allow this to grow new apex. So you can see where it was chopped here at some point when it was, probably in the pre-bonsai field, or maybe when it was shipped or something like that. Like I've had it for 3 years. You can still see this chop really more prominently, like right there when I first bought it. I'm just going to include a bunch of old pictures here. Somehow or another, I let this piece grow just a little bit too straight and kind of uninteresting. It's got a decent apex, but with these things being so apically dominant, I should be able to chop it and just regrow an apex and just keep it a much more stout tree, and I think kind of improve on it a little bit. You may notice a ton of ants crawling all over it. I've been squishing some aphids on it. It took me a little while to get started here. I just squished some. I have noticed before they seem to like this really new growth on this particular tree, but then once they do get that the big green leathery look to them, they just kind of back off. They don't seem to like it anymore. First thing I'm going to do, like I said, I have had it for 3 years. It's been in organic soil the whole time. The only thing I did is it had this root here that was growing out of the pot, and I chopped that one off. When I go to repot it today, I really just want to get it in some better soil is my number one goal. I may do something with that. That's the only real crossing root. The rest of them all kind of are behaving themselves. But of course, first thing, get all these weeds out of here. Some of these, the roots are staying behind. I'm just kind of moving them out of the way now. They're distracting for me. Thought about leaving it in the pot a little bit longer because I don't think the health of the tree is a concern or anything. But I do see that it does have some circling roots. I'd like to just get rid of all that. And then these shoots that did pop out with the really old leaves on there, I don't think any of those are keepers. And all things considered, I was even thinking about trying to leave this, but I think it's too close to that branch there. And I'll go ahead and pop that off too. Alright, so I thought about trying to air layer. I'm going to take a little break right here, and I'm going to show you guys another cutting that I took. I like to call this my little survivor cutting here. This is from that tree, obviously. If you can see how big this trunk is here, at one point this actually had a long shoot coming out of it for cutting. It just like shot out like a good 2 feet tall without hardly any branching on it. I had just moved it once, and I moved it and I kind of forgot where I moved it to. I moved it to around a bunch of plants that I don't really water all that much, some succulents, and I forgot about it for a bit, and it just dried all the way down to nothing. And I went and kind of did like a little bit of a half a repot on it. And then, it was growing fine before the hurricane and whatnot. A hurricane, I've had to move these things so many times, just from the roofers coming through, the people putting the tarp on, people putting the roof on, everything else. I actually had this sitting on a tile, and it started to grow back, like in I don't know, I guess maybe about a month ago, something like that. It started to grow back, and I noticed that the leaves were just looking really funky. And it was not, it was looking like just soupy in the pot. And what happened was it was getting a little bit of a lock with the tile that I had it sitting on. It's just some old tiles that I have sitting around. Sometimes I put them in different places to kill the grass so I can put just potted plants there and everything. And it was actually blocking the drainage. So now I've got it up on cinder blocks and looking much better. Ever since I did that, I just moved it like a couple weeks ago. Ever since this did that, it's looking much better. Try to let this shoot go here and see if I can grow out this scar here from where I had to chop it from before. I have a theory I've been working on for a while, and so far it's been working every time with my microcarpa. And that is, if you get it, like, probably the best time for me to get this probably would have been about a week ago. I've just been really busy at work here lately. But right when they start leafing out, is if you take the cutting then, the leaves are pushing roots, kind of almost with the thought of when you take a normal deciduous tree and repot it right when the buds are breaking, pushing lots of roots and get it to take a cutting like that. But I think I've let this one get just a little bit too far in that, just the original philosophy there. And some of these, are now kind of probably using up more water than I'd really like. So what I want to do is just come up here and thin these out quite a bit. Just to make it to where there's a lot less leaves. So it won't use up so much water and have a chance of... Alright, so already you guys can probably see it's thinned out quite a bit there. Get right around in there. The idea here, I've been finding with some of my cuttings, some of the microcarpa I've actually been able to get to root right in good bonsai substrate. There is a little bit of a better chance of survival if you have it in something organic, just so that it doesn't dry out so quickly, especially this time of year right now. It's not so humid out, we've got a lot of wind. And I didn't make it very long. I'm probably even going to cut that tree off a little bit deeper than I did. I didn't make it very long. I can get it in here and get it to where I can just rest one of these branches just right up against the side of that pot. Should keep it from moving and let it rest in the shade somewhere. So I just use powdered rooting hormone. Ficus trees always have the sap, so it's plenty wet. It just sticks right to it. And I'll just put it on in there. Let it rest up against the side. So I'm going to go ahead and just chop this down a little bit lower. I didn't really want the cutting to be that tall. Use the chop to create some movement. And then also just, like I said, not let it get so tall next time without wiring any movement into it. Just give this thing a light prune. One of the things that this did have over the winter was the first time it ever had any fruit. Had some figs on it through the winter. Thought that was kind of unique because the fact that it got defoliated and kind of beat up in the hurricane, and then while it was just bare of any leaves, it just all of a sudden had some fruit. I have been a little concerned. This branch here is super bare compared to the rest of them. Could have just been behind the rest, I guess, with, coming out with some more with the spring leaves, but seems like they would have come out together. And I don't want any of these branches sticking straight up, or I also don't want the tree to all of a sudden think that's going to be the new apex. I do want it to regrow a spot out of that chop there. So before I do go repotting, I would like to get a little wire on there too. Alright, so I got the wire on there. I just did the primary branches. As I said, I just kind of want to hold them down and prevent any of them from deciding they want to be new apex. And get rid of that too. As the summer goes on, if I find this one coming up too much, I might get some wire on that one. It's a little bit smaller than the other ones. I was able to use kind of big wire on those, where this one's kind of small here. But I think it'll have enough energy where it'll pop a leader up out of there. Never, on my microcarpa, I don't know, yeah, you guys can see that. I've never had that happen there. This stuff really is good and stringy coming out of this type of tree here, I guess. That's what it looks like from the back side there. And let's get on in here and see what this root ball looks like. I do intend to just put it back in the same pot unless I get in here and find something I'm not expecting to find, but I can't imagine. So let's get started. So this would be the last time I'd like to get like this brutal with it. I mean, you know, I did, reduce the top quite a bit. You can see it's got the one main trunk with the two sub trunks here. I'd like to get as much of that, the organic stuff that settles right into the root ball there. You can even see where this was starting to get a little bit of algae on it, where it was starting to just not, it was draining fine, but just where it holds some water in there with all that peat mixed in. I'd like to reduce it as much as possible now. Get some better substrate in there. Alright, so it's looking pretty close to where I'd like to have it. I would like to go hit it with the hose just a little bit. Maybe get a little bit of a better look. Alright, so I cleaned it up a little bit. And then just the more I manipulated it around in that big training pot, I realized I don't really want it in anything that deep anymore. So I had this used pot here. I decided I'm going to go ahead and just put it in that. Already got a little bit of substrate in the bottom. Got the screens in place. Had to open a new bag of soil. And the last time I got some, they said our premium mixed is new and improved. These little white pieces in there, I guess now, or I don't know if the other stuff was scoria. Now this is pumice. I'm not really sure. It's been a little while since I got it. I just remember the sign sitting there saying our premium soil now has something new in it. And I trust them. If they think it's better, it's probably better. All right, so that's about it. I think it looks pretty good in there, considering it is, you know, now in a more decorative pot. The only problem is it has no apex. But the way that I've seen these grow, they really do put one on really quick. And what I might start doing now that I do, you know, do have it in something a little bit better, is rather than trying to, you know, grow any long shoots and wire them up and get a ton of movement or anything, is I'll go ahead and just really prune that apex hard once it starts to regrow back. And I should be able to get a nice ramified apex up here with just these few branches down here. It should look pretty good. This was my, you know, I say original front. The trunk is more open. It does have that one crossing root. I thought about trying to take it out, but that was a good bit of the root ball except for the main trunk, which didn't really have that much coming off of it. I just didn't really have the confidence to kind of make that chop yet. But now on this side, kind of has a little more of a, just kind of a pleasant look into the pot. The only thing wrong with this side is it's got a really good branch here. I say good branch, it's just got some good ramification and it's in a good spot. You know, coming right at the viewer, just let it recover, let it regrow an apex. I think with my climate here and with this better soil, no doubt this guy will survive. We'll see what happens with the cutting.